Welcome to the Geek Easy, fellow geeks. Let's pop open a drink of your choice because today I am going to be reviewing Superman for tomorrow. I guess it is volume 1. I don't know if you can. Anyway. Written by Brian Azzarello, inked by Jim Lee, penciled by Jim Lee, inked by Scott Williams, and colored by Alex Sinclair. I bought this because the only book I remember reading by Brian Azzarello was the Black Label Joker, back when it was still supposed, DC Black Labels was still supposed to mean something, where they could, go all out, be the R-rated stuff, and I kind of enjoyed it. And this was also drawn by Jim Lee. So I was like, okay, this should be interesting. Well, now. Okay, so basically the gist of this is you have it starts out with like a conversation. It is between a priest and a detective who I know. I should know. I don't, but I think she's, maybe this is supposed to be, anyway, and then after she gets, some, philosophical stuff, and then Superman shows up, and Superman starts to talk to him, and the priest wants to know whether Superman is showing up, what he wants, what he's there for, after a little bit of a conversation, he's like, are you here for a confession? And it's like, Superman's like, yeah, I don't do that type of stuff. But in their conversation, this is where you find out that a whole bunch of people disappeared. And the reason he couldn't get to help them was that he had been pulled out into outer space to help Hal Jordan. And he was briefly off planet, and then he sees what's going on his way back, but he couldn't get there in time to stop all these people from disappearing, including his wife, Lois. So this conversation switches back and forth between the present of Clark / Superman and the priest discussing, what had happened and how he felt about it, and then a little bit of, okay, so here's the disappearance, and then I did this, I found out about this, and you slowly start to learn that it was, someone had this machine. It was a bunch of, terrorists who had gotten this weapon built to help them win a war, and how Superman had over there taken the weapon to stop the war from over there. And the guy was kind of pissed. So this led to a philosophical debate as to whether or not should Superman do it. Is since he has the powers and the ability to be a god, should he act in such a manner? Or should he let people do their own things, and he should concentrate more on, being a good example, or stopping, regular crime and all that. And so it's a big, it's a story on, a certain event, a big issue event that Superman you can get involved in, but it's also, Superman as God. Not even necessarily an allegory, because they're pretty much coming out and saying it right here. But it's been done before. I mean, it's been kind of done to death. And, you've got, him, it kind of skips forward, so he's not exactly talking to the priest anymore, but he keeps in contact with him. And, Superman fights a creature who is working with the bad guys. Bad guy thought it was for him, but it's not. He's just doing it for his own things. And then he's up there dealing with the Justice League, discussing things with them about how his abilities, and he has to literally fight. Let's see if I can find this. I should have had this marked. He literally has to fight Mount Rushmore. See if I can find this bit in here where he is fighting Mount Rushmore. Right here. Mount Rushmore, And at the end, it actually before it stops to leave out for part 2, it turns into, there's what do you call it? The elements. So there's going to be air, earth, fire, and all that. So it becomes this big him against nature type of deal. That's what it sets up. Because him fighting Mount Rushmore, that was the earth, and at the end you have somebody who is pissed off because of stuff, and they never really show who she is in this one, but she's gets visited by Wonder Woman. It was really the story was kind of hard to follow. It was really preachy, It was been done before, many times, and probably not as good as many of the other times, I'm assuming, because I haven't read them all. But with Superman's powers, how far should he go? What can he, should he exert, his will, his on these people to say, hey, you've got to stop this killing, yada yada yada. Should he be an example, or should he just force his stuff on people? And it was just it's been done, and this wasn't as good as many of them. But I have to say, while the story wasn't all that good, the art was incredible. I mean, you have Jim Lee art, and that guy is one of the best artists in comics, in modern comics, in my opinion. I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but I think he's probably one of the greatest of all times. I'm not saying he's the best, I'm just saying he's probably one of the greatest of all times, especially, like I said, modern. So it was kind of a mixed bag on this, because it was a really not even average story, a little below average, but it looked spectacular. And it's obviously there's a second part to it, because it leaves off on, leaves off with a cliffhanger. And there's no, it's volume 1. I have no intention of getting the second one. In fact, what I want to do is probably go back to Tidal Wave, where I bought it, and turn it in for credit, and then use that credit to get something else. Because it's not something that I want to keep in my collection. It just wasn't. It's not worth it. I mean, it looking good doesn't warrant me wanting to keep it in my collection. So, because it's one of those things that you're just like, okay, like I said, it's an old story. They kind of beat you over the head with it, with the message that's already been done a lot. And I found it kind of boring. So I'm going to give this a 2.0 out of 5. Actually, let me just say 2.5 out of 5, because the art brings the score up a little bit. But I cannot recommend this book, and I won't. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of it, if you read it. And like, subscribe, and most of all, try and enjoy your comics.